morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity of Bellevue. I'm Reverend Marla Mason. I am blessed and privileged to serve as your minister this morning and every day of the week. Welcome to Unity, where we practice loving God and loving one another, where we grow in consciousness and in spiritual understanding, and where we are committed to serving the common good. This is what we are about. We are about waking up to the spiritual truth of who and whose we are, and we are about practicing until we get it. So that's what we're doing here, coming together in spiritual community every Sunday in classes and small groups during the week and all kinds of other activities. Thank you for joining us today. It's great to see lots of familiar faces, and I even see a few new faces this morning. So welcome, everyone. I want to let you know who is supporting us this morning in bringing about this spiritual program for you. We have our meditation facilitator this morning was me. And it was a great experience. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to do that. Our prayer chaplains today are Lori Coleman and Lynn Zeller. They are happy to be in prayer for you. There will be a prayer circle after the service, and they'll also fill you in on how you can submit prayers or even receive a phone call for prayer a little bit later in our time together today. Our board host today is Sharon Wolf. Thank you, Sharon, for stepping up in business leadership for our community. I'm super grateful for you. And Monica McDowell Elvig is our center administrator and our producer, and you will hear from her a little bit later with our announcements as well. Finally, we have a special guest this morning. I am thrilled to welcome Reverend Kit Holmes, all the way from Wimberley, Texas, as our guest artist this morning. Reverend Kit is a newly minted reverend. She's been a minister for 1 week. So grateful to have you with us as you move into this transitional time in your ministry and in your life, Kit. She is the spiritual leader and music minister at Unity of Wimberley in Wimberley, Texas. And that's a great community. You know, they are an innovative spiritual community that is offering science of mind, that is offering unity teachings and other new thought teachings, kind of all in one package. It's a powerful place to study and grow in spirit. Kit is a powerhouse human being. She's a teacher, she's a facilitator, she's a speaker, and she brings all of that work to life in bringing forth new thought principles in the world since at least 2004. So Kit has some music for us this morning. Welcome, Reverend. Happy to have you with us.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you, Reverend Marley. All right, song called Welcome Namaste. Here you go. Welcome to this loving place. There are no strangers here. Welcome to this place of open hearts. Thank you for being here. You're welcome anytime, every time, just the way you are. Welcome to this joyful place. Let the celebration begin. Namaste, namaste, come on in. Welcome to this loving place. There are no strangers here. Welcome to this place of open hearts. Thank you for being here. You're welcome anytime, every time, just the way you are. Welcome to this joyful place. Let the celebration begin. Namaste, namaste, come on in. Namaste, namaste, come on in. Namaste, namaste, come on in.
And so we open our hearts, we open our minds to the spiritual truth of infinite love, infinite presence, infinite beingness, that which we call God. And we lift ourselves in our conscious awareness of this beingness of this God. And we unify in consciousness, knowing that there is only one thing happening and we are smack in the middle of it. We come on in, we step in to the knowing, to the being of the wholeness of the absolute. And so it's in this consciousness of oneness. I declare a great and mighty blessing on all that unfolds here today. The music, the message, the fellowship we share, I know is a deep and powerful blessing as every heart is open. Every mind says yes to all that is about to unfold. And so I open this time together with a grateful heart, calling it good and very, very good. And so it is. Amen. I'm going to read through our affirmation one time. It's a prayer. It's an affirmative prayer. So what I invite you to do as I read through is simply take a receptive pose and hear these words and own them as your own. When I'm complete, I'll ask you to repeat them with me. Our affirmation today: aware that everyone I see is a part of me I do not yet know. I give free rein to the love revolution taking place in my heart. I open everything in me to loving radically, to loving others, my opponents, and myself, completely and unconditionally. And so it is. Allow these words to fall on your heart. And now I invite you to speak them with me, wherever you are, with conviction. Own this affirmation. Aware that everyone I see is a part of me I do not yet know. I give free rein to the love revolution taking place in my heart. I open everything in me to loving radically, to loving others, my opponents, and myself, completely and unconditionally. And so it is.
Everybody's got a story. Lord knows I've got mine. All our pain and all our glory, all the masks we hide behind. I'm standing here in wonder, my faith in things unseen, holding back, diving under. There is no in between. Everything's a lesson, everyone's a mirror, no matter where I am. But when my heart is open and my mind is clear, I know I can. Oh, return to love, return, return to love. Oh, return to love, return, return to love. Deconstructing my defenses, dismantling my pride, making peace and mending fences with who I am inside. When I let myself go deeper, love is closer than my breath, my master and my keeper, beating right here in my chest. Everything's a lesson, everyone's a mirror, no matter where I am. When my heart is open and my mind is clear, I know I can. Oh, return to love, return to love. Oh, return to love, return to love. Everything's a lesson and everyone's a mirror. In everything I do, my heart is open and my mind is clear. Now I'm asking you to, oh, return to love, return to love. Oh, return to love, return to love. Oh, return to love, return. Oh, return to love, return to love, return to love, return to love.
Thank you so much, Reverend Kit Holmes. What a blessing to welcome you to our community. I'm so grateful to have you with us. Return to love. It's all kind of right there, right? All we need to do is step more boldly, step more fully into the consciousness of love, and then the beingness and behaviors of love simply follow naturally and effortlessly. And that's a beautiful song because it really is one of the themes of this morning's message, that when we get right in mind, when we get right in our thinking, the divine right behaviors flow forth. So many times we think, well, I have to be doing the right things in the world to be right in mind. And it's really the opposite, right? We get right in mind and the right things start unfolding naturally and effortlessly in the world. This weekend is Memorial Day weekend. Tomorrow is actually the official Memorial Day. And Memorial Day is a federal holiday. Sometimes I think we forget a little bit what it's about. The Memorial Day holiday is about mourning and remembering and honoring those Americans who have lost their lives in military service. I was pretty surprised this morning. There's over 1.3 million of them since the Civil War. And so this is this day that we celebrate, if you will, tomorrow is the day that we honor the courage and the patriotism and the commitment of those who have given their lives for a greater idea, those who have said, I stand for something and I am willing to risk everything for what I stand for. I think it's important to note that Memorial Day isn't quite Veterans Day. Veterans Day is when we honor all of our, those who have been in military service. This day is about honoring those who've given their lives. The holiday has kind of become generalized, I think, to even honoring non-military. I know Patty really likes to go Memorial Day weekend or somewhere right around there to visit her mother's grave. And she cleans up a little bit and she has a little chat with her mom and we put flowers and I go sit in the car and read my book while she spends some time with her mom. And it's just a time for her to remember and honor who her mom was and the courage that she brought to living her life fully and completely. But the origins of Memorial Day, I think it's important to remember, is that it was created to honor military service people. And it's an interesting thing, you know, I've never been in the military, so I can't totally speak authoritatively, but what I imagine, what I kind of see when I look, is I see people who come from all over this country, and in some cases, all over this world, to serve something greater. They become united by a commitment to something greater than they are. It's so similar to what we do when we come together in spiritual community. When we own the spiritual journey, we are saying, I'm committed to something greater than I am. I'm committed to the divine idea that we call God. I'm committed to knowing my spiritual beingness more and more deeply. And in a real similar way, the folks who serve in our military have come together to serve a bigger idea. And that bigger idea is the human rights guaranteed in our United States Constitution. Human rights like equality and freedom, the right to assemble, freedom of religion, the right to move freely around our country, regardless of race, religion, gender identity, regardless of economic background, regardless of what we believe. Those are the fundamental rights that those who have committed to serve in our military are committed to preserving. And so Memorial Day, we honor those who have died in service to that greater idea, whether they knew it or not. Does that make sense? Now, what that means to me, someone gave their life, even if it was only one person, and it's actually over 1.3 million people, even if it was only one person, it becomes incumbent upon me to protect those ideals in my own sphere of being. And my own sphere of being is you know, in my work, in my vote, in my daily life. In order to truly honor those who have given their lives, my task is to do my part in preserving those ideals. It's one of the ways that we honor those who have given everything. And not only those who are gone, because I think sometimes it's easy to forget that when someone dies in service to this country, they're leaving someone behind. They are leaving behind their families, the communities, their friends. And I think it's easy to forget that then those family, those communities, those friends become mired in this, in the pain of grief and in the pain of loss, trying to understand what can't really be understood. And so it's more than the loss of a person. It's a loss of being able to make sense of the world. It's a loss of a loved one. 1.3 million loved ones who had 1.3 million communities and families who were also deeply affected. And so we not only honor those who were lost, but we also honor who they left behind, their communities and their families. And we do that by creating a more humane and a more just world. We do that by protecting the ideals that they were protecting. Freedom. Freedom. It's really the core ideal, isn't it? And we do that by doing what is ours to do to create a more humane, a more just world. And let me just say, we do that in mind first. Remember, I said at the beginning, we do it in mind first, and the right behaviors start to exhibit themselves in the world. And we get so confused. We think somehow I have to be doing something in the world. And we do have to be doing something in the world. Don't think I'm saying we don't, but we have to do it in consciousness first. Otherwise, what happens out in the world goes sideways. It's one of the, it's kind of the genius of Martin Luther King. What was the, you know, his nonviolent approach to social change. You know, his, violence begets violence. Peace begets peace. And so we create this more humane and just world by growing in consciousness, by asking ourselves questions like, you know, what if we didn't send people to war? What if we didn't need to do that? We just think about that for a little while. Why do we think we need to do that? See, and we just begin asking ourselves questions. What if young children felt safe in school? What if women didn't have to look over their shoulders as they're walking down the street at night? What if people of color felt secure in their communities? What if those things were true? You see, if those things were true, we would be living in a more humane and a more just world. And in order to create that, what is required is a commitment to healing and a commitment to justice, a commitment to something greater than we are, a commitment to something that we are willing to give our very lives for. Even as those we've lost, those military service members that we've lost have been willing to give their lives for the greater idea of the rights that are guaranteed by our Constitution. Are we willing, are we ready to do the work in consciousness that can then outpicture in the world as peace, as justice, as safety for children, as safety for people of color? So how do we commit to this healing work and to this world of justice? How do we commit to this healing work? How do we transform the systems? How do we transform the individual and collective behaviors that diminish others? How do we do this work together? I'm going to tell a story, and it's kind of funny. I was telling this story, I think, to Susan Neidig the other day. It might have been somebody else. I couldn't quite remember. And this story actually is a story of me coming to recognize my complicity. And here's what happened. I was working at a domestic violence shelter in Southern Oregon, and I had moved down there for this job, and I got the new license plates for my cars, and I was really super excited because Oregon State has Oregon Trail. I don't know if they still do, but they did then. They had Oregon Trail license plates with a little, you know, with a wagon on it, and it said Oregon Trail on the bottom. And I was super excited because in my family, we have a story. And our story is about, you know, great-great-grandmother Mary Jane Mills, who came across the plains in a covered wagon when she was 14 years old and was married at 16 and had 17 children. And, you know, she and John Brown that she married, you know, homesteaded in what's now kind of Western Central Washington around Centralia area. And we have this whole mythic story in my family, and it's really a beautiful story. And so I was super excited to get these Oregon Trail license plates. And a couple days after I'd gotten my license plates, I was walking in the parking lot of the building with the president of the board of trustees for that agency I was working for. And she happened to be Native American. And as we were walking through the parking lot, she said, "Oh, I see you got your Oregon plates." And I said, "Yeah, I did. Isn't that cool? They're Oregon Trail plates." And she looked right at me and she so lovingly said, "My people don't celebrate the Oregon Trail." And you know, it was a moment for me. And let me tell you how clean her consciousness was, because she said that with no guilt, with no blame, with no nothing. It was just like a fact. My people don't celebrate the Oregon Trail. And her willingness to speak the truth into my unconsciousness, lovingly, kindly, without a lot of emotional energy around it, healed me. Because I got to recognize that as beautiful as my family story is, and it's beautiful and it's in itself, it's not wrong. It is an indication of the privilege that my ancestors had, that they could walk straight onto somebody else's property and say, it's mine now. What? And I hadn't even put that together in my brain. And it shifted my mind in such a powerful way for me to come to that realization and to realize, you know what, they're just acting out of what was normal and right for them at the time. So this is not about blame. Recognizing our own complicity is not about making others wrong. It's about acknowledging the facts. Even as the woman, the board president acknowledged, well, you know what, my people don't celebrate the Oregon Trail. Wow, I get that. It was a moment. And you see, in some way, we are all complicit in these systems and these behaviors and these institutions that diminish others. And it's not conscious. This is not about blame. It's not about shaming anybody. But what we can do is wake up to it, because from this place, from this new awareness, from this new place in consciousness, we can take responsibility for what happened, and we can take responsibility for our cluelessness and begin to act in the world in support of others' rights, in support of a humane and just world for everyone. But I can't do that until I recognize great-great-grandmother Mary Jane Mills's unconscious complicity, as well as my own. You know, to this day, you know, my family benefits, right, from their settling on other people's land. To this day, we benefit. And that's not wrong. See, I think one of the places we get really stuck is we think, well, don't be making me wrong. That's not what it's about. It's about, remember, consciousness is cause, right? It's about recognizing, oh, something happened that was not life affirming. And I am about being life affirming. And so now, how will I be in the world now that I know that something happened was not, something that happened was not life affirming? What steps will I take? How will I talk about these issues? And in that way, we begin to, number two, take responsibility. We recognize our complicity, and then we begin to take responsibility for how we have benefited. And we take responsibility by facing it squarely. No blame, no shame, no guilt. We face it squarely. I began to read up, you know, I went back, because there's actually even a book about there's a section in a book about great-great-grandmother. And you know, I went back and I read that, and you know what, it's a beautiful story. And she was a powerful woman. Can I tell you, she had 17 kids while homesteading. Oh, seriously. She was pregnant for 22 years. I am not kidding you. And almost all of those children grew to adulthood. So she was a powerful woman, but for me to take responsibility for what happened, I need to face it squarely. I go back and I read her story. I do some further research. I have all kind of stuff about her. If anybody's interested, she's actually a very fascinating person. So we face it squarely. But then when I was done reading up on her, I went and read up on Native American communities in the Pacific Northwest. Who were they? What happened? How is it that they ended up on the reservations and we got the land? How did that happen? You see, we begin to take responsibility. We read, we talk about it, we share about it, we acknowledge what happened, even as the president of the Board of Trustees just acknowledged, you know, oh, my people don't celebrate the Oregon Trail. Just a fact. And we begin to acknowledge like it's just a fact. That's all. And then we can begin to return to love, as beloved Reverend Kit reminded us. We can begin to return to love instead of feeling our unacknowledged guilt, instead of cultivating anger toward those we think are impeding on us, we can return to love because we recognized our complicity with no blame, no shame, no guilt. And then we took some responsibility and began to do whatever it was we did. And then we become advocates for the greater good for everyone. See, we're all here now. I can't go back to, 1863 when she came here. I can't go back to that and change that. What I can do is advocate from a place of wholeness, from a consciousness of love and a consciousness of wholeness. I can advocate for the kinds of changes today that create a more just and a more humane world for everyone. And then what we have to do is be willing to feel the pain. It's painful to me to learn that 1.3 million human beings have died in military service since the Civil War. That's painful. It's painful to me to recognize that people lost their homes and they lost their lands because of what my ancestors did. It's painful to think about how many people have died in our country at the hands of racial violence. But if I'm not willing to feel the pain, I'll never heal. It's kind of like I use the metaphor sometimes. So some of you have heard this before of like, if I break my leg, I gotta be in the healing process. I can pretend it's not broken and drag myself around and hop around on one foot, but I'm never gonna heal that way. I need to go and feel the pain of the leg being set. I need to be in the discomfort of gimping around on crutches. I need to be willing to be in the painful process, to feel the pain, to acknowledge that, yeah, I have some pain around this. Yeah. But, I'm guessing when I think of the families and the communities that are walking the grief path around losing their loved ones in violence, in war, in racial violence, when I think about that, I think, you know what? My pain involved in facing the truth is pretty small. It's pretty small. And I can do that because what I know is it's going to grow my capacity to return to love. It's going to grow my capacity to stand in the truth for that more just and more humane world that we say. We say we're about creating a world that works for everyone. And in order for us to do that, we're going to have to recognize our complicity. We're going to have to take responsibility. We are going to have to be willing to feel the pain so that the leg can be healed, so that the broken leg can be healed. And then you go to physical therapy and I don't want to go to PT again. That's okay. Get over it, because that's what healing requires. I don't want to do this either. That's what healing requires. And if indeed we are going to move boldly forward into a more powerful world, we have to be willing to do what is required to heal the pain. Are you willing to do what is required? And I had this vision yesterday as I was in my spiritual practice of Memorial Day as a holiday in which, yes, we recognize the courage, we recognize the patriotism of those who have given their lives in military service. But what if we also made it a day that we honor those who have lived well and died peacefully? What if we consciously made it a day in which we remembered the powerful lives of those who have come before? And have given oh so much to who we are today. And so what I want to invite us to do is begin to move into that consciousness of love and that consciousness of inclusion, that consciousness of the awareness that something greater than we are is calling us forth into it. And thank you. Sharon Wolf has reminded me several times in class last week, we talked about God does not qualify the called. I'm sorry, God, I'm not getting this out right at all, am I? God does not call the qualified. God qualifies the called. So if you're thinking, I don't know how to do this, or this is too hard, or it's too painful, or it's too whatever, or it's too liberal, or whatever it is you might be thinking, you are qualified by God to move through this time with courage and with an awareness that something greater is on the other side. In the same way that those who have given their lives in military service for the vision of something greater, the vision of the basic human rights that are guaranteed by our Constitution, I promise you that as you move through this time of growing and expanding in your conscious awareness of how to transform the systems and institutions that repress into something that is life affirming, I guarantee you, you will be qualified. I promise you, because that's how the universe works. If your soul is tugged, if your heart is open to creating a world that works for everyone, you have everything you need already, because all that is contained in the mind and the body of God is yours. All we have to do is stand alert, open, aware, awake, and willing to receive it. Willing to receive it. And so what I want to do is invite you to feel a little pain today. Know that you're in spiritual community, you're supported, you're honored here, you are blessed here. And I'm going to invite you to, in a few moments, to say the names and the names of those who've been lost. And I'm going to actually ask you to do that in a bit of a structured way, because I want to recognize all the areas that I think are important for us to remember, all in the context of standing for those basic human rights, basic constitutional rights of freedom. Yeah. So I welcome you into the consciousness of healing, into the consciousness of lovingly recognizing our own complicity, lovingly taking responsibility, and lovingly and in a supported way feeling the pain of the loss. And so I'm going to mention a few categories here in a moment, and I'm going to invite you to type the names into the chat. The names that for you fit these categories. And I will read your names, and I invite you to say the names wherever you are, in your home, wherever you are. And as you say these names, to speak them from your very heart and to hold the image of this human being in your mind and in your heart. And to do that with a willingness to feel the pain and experience a healing, to get on the other side of it, so that in consciousness you become clean for moving forward with a peaceful heart, so that we can affect meaningful, true, real change in the world. And so let's turn within. And we take the sacred breath together, and we recognize that we have been called together this morning to do a great and mighty work, to open our minds and hearts to a better world for everyone, to allow ourselves to be accountable for the past and to step boldly into a future of possibility and of love. And as you stand willing to be healed, I invite you now to speak and to type into chat the names of those that have touched your heart who have fallen in military service. Who are those that are important to you, important to your family? Type the names into the chat and speak the name aloud as you do. And we will say their names together. My childhood neighbor, Ray Conway. Lou Nilsson died in Vietnam also. My uncle Frank Schroeds died in World War II. Joe Zukasas, Sr. Lisa's grandfather's brother died in World War I. Steve Lahari, childhood friend, Vietnam. Major Alan Johnson, fellow soldier. John Jarvis, Scotty Zion. Scottree Zion. And so we hold these names in our hearts. And we recognize that these names represent human beings created in the image and likeness of the infinite mind and heart of God. And I invite you now to share the names of family, friends you have loved, who have transitioned, those you wish to recognize. Ed Lane, Alfred Wright, Noreen Kring, my mother, Arthur Coleman, Joanne de Michel, Richard Murphy, Juanita Jean Schlein, my mother Fran Shaver and my father Jean Shaver, Charles Salvantris and Joseph Charles Silvatris and Joseph Melanzi, Sue Brody, my father Charles Peter Mason, Ann Holmes, Lois Allen, my mother, Cora Polmatier, my grandmother, Roland Bussiere, Dr. and Mrs. Charles Leslie Ruffs, Mom and Dad, Anne Marquez, Tony Marquez, Alez Zendejas, Alex Niven, Homero Capetillo, Monique Nevin, Donna Bradshaw, Enrique Botello, Marcia Patterson, Patricia Patterson, and we take a moment to recognize that each of these names represents a human being, someone we have loved, someone who loved us. Leonard Dear, my late father, U.S. Marine Corps. Older brother, Denny Dart, Vietnam. Raleigh and Ethel Burnett. My dear friend, Ken Hoem. Each of these names a human being that made a difference here on planet Earth. And I invite you now to name those who have lost their lives in racial or gender injustice or some other form of injustice. Those who have lost their lives in racial or gender injustice, other forms of injustice. Leah Jane Palmatier, my little sister, age 3. Kip Grangard, my stepbrother, age 20. Matthew Shepard. Those who have lost their lives in racial or gender injustice or other injustice. George Floyd. Breonna Taylor. Many members of my Landman family in the Holocaust. And we recognize and we remember that these names represent human beings, people who lived and loved on planet Earth and people whom we loved. And take this opportunity now to speak any other names, anyone else that you would like to remember this Memorial Day weekend. Anything that wants to be spoken to help you move through the pain. Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Edwards and his 2 daughters' house fire. Agnes Bussiere, my mother. And let's just allow ourselves to take a moment in the conscious awareness that there is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is our life now. And so these who have made their transition are with us in spirit, for they are in the consciousness of the infinite mind and heart of God. We feel the loss of their earthly presence. We remember them with such love. And we know that life is eternal, that love is immortal, and death is only a horizon. And a horizon is nothing save the limit of our sight. And so, having spoken these names, we have taken the healing step, that which moves us through, that opens our minds and hearts to a greater idea and a greater willingness to be of service to that idea. Freedom, justice, humanity. peace. And so I give thanks for this sacred and holy time together. I give thanks for each name spoken and even those not spoken. And I give thanks for the one mind and heart of God that lifts us and supports us and into which we can lean with such confidence. I am so very grateful that we have been transformed this day by the renewing of our hearts and minds, and that we step forth boldly to do God's work of creating peace in the world. And so I close this message with a grateful heart, calling it good and very, very good. And so it is. Amen.
Oh, when we open our hearts and cast our love across the seas, we will share our light with the rising sun, and we'll know who we've come here to be. Oh, when we open our eyes and recognize the possibilities, we will share our minds, and when day is done, we will know who we've come here to be. A light for justice, a light for hope and peace like the world has never known. And love, oh love, is who we've come here to be. A light for freedom, a light for joy and healing like the world has never known. And love, oh love, is who we've come here to be. Oh love, is who we've come here to be.
Good morning. This morning we have truly been blessed by beautiful music and a message that mindfully honors Memorial Day and invites us to heal and support a world that works for all people. As we enter this time of our giving, of our financial support, if you are new to our community, we welcome you and invite you to visit our website to explore all that we have to offer. Please reach out to us so we can learn how to best serve you. And if you are so led, feel free to give, but please don't feel obligated. For those of us who do call this our spiritual home, we give as a part of our spiritual practice, understanding that we are channels through which the good that God is flows and flows abundantly. Our financial support demonstrates our commitment to awakening people to their spiritual nature and creating a vibrant, thriving spiritual community. So we give generously with open hearts to this place where we love, grow, and serve. By the way, we're trying out a new offering affirmation and ask that you share your thoughts in the chat when the offering is complete. So in this consciousness, please join me as we declare our offering affirmation together. I give freely for the joy of giving. I know that seeds sown in love produce an overflowing harvest of good for me, for this center, and for all people. Lovingly, I give. Joyfully, I receive. And so it is.
And so I declare a great and mighty blessing on these offerings, on these gifts. I know that they are given graciously in support of this center and in support of the greater idea of loving, growing, and serving in God. I am so very grateful. I consecrate these gifts to the good use of Unity of Bellevue and declare a blessing from the gift of our own tithe as we give, even as we have received. I call it good, and so it is. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Monica Elvig, and I am your center administrator. If you are visiting with us for the first time, we invite you into an atmosphere and a journey of love, of remembering in love, of looking forward into the future in love. And if you would like to know more about us, I invite you to our website, unityofbellevue.org. There's an I'm New page you can go to find out details. You can also sign up for a welcome packet on that page, and I'm happy to send that to you. You can also sign up for our weekly e-newsletter. That's the best way to stay in touch with us while everything is online. It's at the bottom of every page on our website. So we look forward to hearing from you, and reach out to us and tell us who you are. Thank you for being with us. Today I have a record low number of announcements. Aren't you lucky? I have two prayer chaplains today. Lori and Lynn are prayer chaplains. If you stay after the end of our service, we're going to take a 3-minute break. They are willing and eager to pray with you and for you. It's a confidential group, and if you are unable to stay after, you can send any prayer requests to them at prayerchaplains@unityofbellevue.org, or you can fill out the prayer request form on the website. If you would like one of them to call and talk with you or to pray with you, please put that in your message. And this Wednesday, Living What Matters, every week we practice a new spiritual practice following the Book of Soul by Mark Nepo. Reverend Marla leads that group. That is a free drop-in group, and you can find the Zoom link on our website. Thanks, everyone. Have a blessed week. Our offices are closed tomorrow.
You just slide that in there, right? Our offices are closed tomorrow. It's a holiday. Hey, y'all, I am deeply looking forward to seeing you in our Living What Matters group on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Also, keep in mind, next week, information is coming out about summer classes. Look forward to Metaphysical Bible on Wednesday nights this summer. That's going to be some good stuff. How do we take a progressive look at what's happening in that sacred text? So thank you for joining us this morning. We have one more song from Kit Holmes. Leave this place blessed and transformed. And so it is.
So it is. Thank you. Every day, waking up grateful that I get another chance to say thank you. Every night, taking the time to remind myself that I've got it so good. And I gotta say, it's so good to be grateful every day. The sun came up this morning and I could see it. Oh, that sweet sunshine. My heart still has a beat and I'm still breathing. So far, so good. Everything's turning out right every day. I'm waking up grateful that I get another chance to say thank you every night. I've taken the time to remind myself that I've got it so good. And I gotta say, it's so good to be grateful every day. When I recognize the things I take for granted, see the magic in the mundane, I know that's where the greatest gifts are planted. So I say thank you again and again every day. Waking up grateful that I get another chance to say thank you every night. Taking the time to remind myself that I've got it so good. And I gotta say, it's so good. Grateful every day. So grateful, yeah. I got the stars, I got the moon, I got love and I got you every day. So grateful, yeah. So grateful, yeah. So grateful for Unity of Bellevue and Reverend Marla. Thank you so much. I'm grateful every day.